All right, Dallas, thank you. Now for a deeper dive on these high-profile, high-stakes investigations, we invited our News 19 political analysts Jay Town and David Person to share their insights with our very own Jerry Hayes. Jerry?
We normally have these guys in the studio to talk about elections, but as you know, the elections are over. There is still, though, plenty to talk about, and the stakes right now couldn't be much higher. David, let's go ahead and start with you. We know that Republicans had long vowed to investigate President Biden, but this is the DOJ under his administration. So what do Democrats really make remarkable of this event?
Well, I think there's a lot of hand-wringing going on, and understandably so. I mean, this is something that really should not have happened. You know, we understand that. But we also understand that there's a big distinction between a president who is responsive and cooperative and a former president who not only is resistant at every turn, but who makes up the most incredible excuses, including, I declassified them in my mind. I mean, there's just a huge difference between Biden and Trump on this issue.
Jay, you're a former federal prosecutor, so I need you to help everybody understand how these two investigations are alike and how they differ.
Well, I can tell you, so everybody I've talked to about Jack Smith, I don't know him personally. He's the one investigating President Trump, former President Trump, say he's a great guy. He's not going to be influenced by any of the things that David and I would love to talk about for hours. He's just going to do his job. Rob Hur, who is investigating President Biden, I've known Rob for a long time. He is, if artificial intelligence software could create a prosecutor, it would come out with Rob Hur. So you have two, you know, one of the great similarities is you have two honorable men who are leading these investigations. I will say this: up until the Biden documents broke, I thought that President Trump was going to be indicted. I just thought that the search of Mar-a-Lago was step 20 in a 20-step process. But after the revelations with President Biden, you know, really Vice President Biden and Citizen Biden, I think that it makes that very much more difficult. And one of the similarities that I will point out too is both of these individuals were civilians, and both of them had documents marked classified. That is the correct nomenclature. It is not correct to say that any of these, I don't know if they're classified still or not. The classification could have ran out in 2014 for all anybody knows. But they were marked classified. These two civilians had them in their homes. And so I do think we have to get some of this breathless punditry tamped down and just wait for some facts to come out through the special prosecutor's office.
But it's not reckless for people to say to the former president, why are you making excuses? Why are you resisting cooperation? I mean, all of that is legitimate.
I would suggest that he wasn't resisting cooperation. He was negotiating, and I would also suggest that...
Negotiating on classified documents? Come on.
Well, you don't know they're classified, David.
Well, they call them classified. The DOJ certainly considered them classified.
No,
and he never disputed that they were classified.
What he said was, all the documents in my possession I declassified.
Until he said that.
Which is perfectly his right to do as the President of the United States, and he can do it in the dark with a magic wand to himself with nobody around.
That's not
100% can.
That's not
That
true.
is the law of the United States. If you disagree with that, take it up with Article 2 or the Obama EO that is the current law.
In his mind and
absolutely
not leave a paper trail.
Absolutely can.
No.
Sure, absolutely.
This is exactly why we like having these two guys on.
Right. This is why when Christine threw it to us, she said deeper dive. Right. That was David's part.
We are out of time. We are out of time. But I want to give each of you one last question that answer in as short a time as you can. Will one or both of these men be the party's nominee for president in 2024?
Hope not.
And on this we agree. Hope not.
Okay. David Person, Jay Town, always a pleasure. And we won't wait until November of 2024 to have you guys back.
All right, good.
Thank you for being with us.